There are essentially two prongs to Mark Carney's domestic policy. One is enriching himself and his buddies at Brookfield Management as much as possible during his tenure as Prime Minister. And the second is silencing Canadians who oppose him and trampling on our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I'm going to walk you through why these two prongs are the pillars of Carney's time as Prime Minister, and I believe that he is not acting on behalf of the best interest of the Canadian people, but rather globally to view this as a simple mass of land to make money on rather than a group of people with a proud history. Carney worked at Brookfield Asset Management for nearly a decade before he became Prime Minister of Canada. He'd been a senior economic advisor to Trudeau, but he'd spent the vast majority of his career in the private industry, hasn't even lived in Canada for the vast majority of his adult life. Now at Brookfield, he straight up lied during the run-up to becoming Prime Minister in what was a very shoddy Liberal election to begin with. Carney claimed that he only held real estate as well as liquid cash, but it's now been revealed that he holds almost 600 individual company stock, and a lot of it is in Brookfield Asset Management, where he spent 10 years. Now, I've done quite a bit of digging into the policies that Carney is pursuing in their relation to Brookfield Asset Management. First prong is immigration. 75% of Canadians say we have too many immigrants in the country right now. We need to stop. No more in 8 million in the past decade. We cannot withstand it anymore. What's Carney done? Between permanent and temporary immigrants, he's allowed in another 800,000 in Q1 2025 alone. Doesn't make any sense. Well, it makes a hell of a lot more sense when you realize Brookfield Asset Management holds over $37 billion worth of real estate in Canada. What better way to pump up the value of real estate than allow unlimited immigration? You look at Canada, it was a very reasonably priced country, a very average Western country to live in up until 2015 when Justin Trudeau was elected. After Trudeau was elected, and the tap was just turned on, unlimited immigration. Essentially, from the moment Trudeau was elected until right now, look, it's a rocket ship upwards, the price of both housing as well as real estate. Now, this is horrible for your average middle lower class Canadian, but for Brookfield Asset Management, this is fantastic. This is a coup. Like I mentioned, their real estate values have more than doubled in the past decade. And Carney, he needs that $37 billion to continue to pump up. It'll benefit him as well as his elite buddies at Brookfield, who he's looking out for. So when you ask why do they continue to allow so many immigrants in, that's the answer to the question. Brookfield Asset Management holds over $37 billion worth of real estate in Canada. Second point on Brookfield, Carney spoke a big game about all these different projects that he was going to get off the ground once he was elected Prime Minister of Canada. Has barely lifted a finger in terms of getting any of them off the ground. But the one major project that he has focused on is prefab housing, laying out a plan and announcing that $25 billion are going to be available to be invested in prefab housing. Well, what do you know? Through Carney's Brookfield just purchased a company called Modular. What do? Prefab housing. The Canadian government, $25 billion, billion with a B, is meant to be spent in the next decade on prefab housing. Again, Carney governing for Brookfield Asset Management, not Canadians. Third point, deforestation. Canadians know you now can't walk in the woods in Nova Scotia. Very odd story. It has to do with glyphosate. Won't go into detail about that, but in order to deforest, you're cutting a lot of trees down. In order to avoid these forest fires that we've been having, you need to leave a small percentage, about 10% of the trees in the ground, because otherwise there isn't enough liquid in the ground and these forest fires begin to happen frequently. But it's more expensive for whoever is doing your deforestation to leave that percentage of trees in the ground. What's happening in Canada right now? They're not leaving the minimum 10% of trees in the ground, which is a large part of the reason we're having all these forest fire issues. Guess who does the deforestation? Brookfield Asset Management. I kid you not. Brookfield Asset Management does the deforestation, and they want to maximize profit, so they are not leaving the necessary 10% of trees in the woods because it would cost them more. It's truly unbelievable. When it comes to our immigration policy, when it comes to our prefab housing policy, when it comes to our deforestation policy, the best interest of the Canadian people is not being looked out for. Rather, it's the best interest of Brookfield Asset Management. I could go into 10 more examples with Brookfield. Do some digging yourself. It's truly shocking how this place is being governed in the best interest of a $1 trillion private equity conglomerate rather than Canada. But that's the sad state of the West these days. Now, in terms of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms that are being trampled all over, Carney's approach is essentially to say, if you don't like what I'm doing, I'm going to make you shut up and we're going to go after you. There are 3 bills in particular: Bill C-2, Bill C-4, Bill C-6-3. Bill 2 identifies every Canadian who owns a computer as a digital device. I'm blanking on what the exact term they define as, but it grants the government the permission, if it is deemed in the national security interest, to access the digital communications of any Canadian. If it's deemed in the national security interest, the Canadian government, if Bill C-2 passes, can access any communications you've had digitally, as well as, if it's deemed in the national security interest, they can access any mail that has been sent to you. This is trampling all over our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They stuck it at the very back of the bill because they hoped you wouldn't notice it. But this is disgusting, authoritarian, and Carney's goal is to be able to go after anybody who criticizes the government. Typical tyrannical behavior, shut down dissidents. Bill C-4 retroactively absolves the Liberal Party of any responsibility pertaining to misuse of the millions of pieces of citizens' data they've collected all the way back to the year 2000. Every piece of data that the Liberal Party has collected from Canadian citizens over the past 25 years, they're giving carte blanche, absolving the Liberal government of any misuse. Now, it's common sense. They would only do this if they know how much they've misused this data. Bill C-4, again, they stuck it at the back of C-4. You're not going to be able to go after the government anymore for missing your data. And perhaps the most malevolent, Bill C-6-3, so-called Online Harms Act, which is now in committee, sees the creation of a so-called Digital Safety Commission, which has 10 unelected bureaucrats and an ombudsman on it. Any citizen can report another citizen. Gotta love downtown Ottawa, what our streets have turned into with Safe Supply. Thanks, Liberals. But anyway, so Digital Safety Commission created. Any citizen can report another citizen, not for anything they posted online, but if they believe they are fearful that they will post something hateful in the future. I kid you not. This is pre-crime on steroids. If these 10 unelected bureaucrats and ombudsmen who exist completely outside of our traditional legal system in Canada deem it likely enough that you are going to post something hateful, they can put you on house arrest and give you an ankle bracelet. It's truly dystopian. It's Orwell on steroids. I don't even think Orwell could have dreamed this up. It also extends possible lifetime imprisonment for incitement to genocide and long prison terms for so-called inciting and fomenting hatred and vilification. We know exactly who they're going to go after with these bills. It's time Canadians stand up and fight against this wannabe tyrant. I'm holding rallies Saturday, September 13th, Saturday, September 27th, Parliament Hill. If you're interested in attending, let me know. I'm near 10K followers on TikTok. Government doesn't like dissidents. Please follow me on YouTube, youtube.com/@FightForCanada, and hit the link on YouTube if you're interested in supporting. Patriots are fighting back.